The logic was simple and terrifying at the same time. If we appeared strong, we would be destroyed as a potential threat. If we appeared weak, we would be left alone as harmless savages. The director planned a long-term game. Decades of careful maneuvering in galactic politics until we secretly became so strong that no one could destroy us. The preparations for this charade took 5 years. We trained diplomats in feigned subservience, teaching them to bow and apologize even for breathing the same air as representatives of the superior races. Military bases were disguised as research stations, and warships were refitted to look like clumsy survey vessels. Our scientists were given a secret task: to deliberately downplay all published data on human technology. If we invented a propulsion system capable of 10 light years per hour, official documents would state 2 light years. If our computers could process quintillions of operations per second, we would claim billions. In 2047, humanity officially made contact with the Galactic Federation. Our first ambassador, Margaret Chen, appeared at the council meeting in a simple gray suit, holding a bouquet of earth flowers as a modest gift from a young race that hopes to learn from its wise elder brothers. The reaction was exactly what we had anticipated. Altan representatives snorted with contempt, looking at our primitive ships. The Xanax quickly assessed our limited economic value. The Hoda'al condescendingly patted us on the head and offered a civilizational development program under their wise guidance. For the next 15 years, we played the role of cosmic underdogs. Human colonies received a physical resilience rating of 3 out of 20. We were considered so fragile that even the Xanax, who themselves looked like frail insects, could intimidate us. Our diplomats apologized for every word and thanked them for any show of condescension. The most painful part of the performance was the voluntary handover of the colony of Zark to the Altan Empire. Officially, it looked like a gesture of gratitude for protection, but in reality, we had installed a whole network of spy devices on the planet. Every human who left Zark carried terabytes of data on Altan technology and military plans. Our reputation was finally cemented after the incident at the Zeta-7 trading station. A group of drunken Xanax began to mock human traders, and our people not only didn't fight back but even apologized for disturbing the esteemed gentleman's fun. The video of this humiliation went viral across the galaxy, and humanity was permanently branded harmless cowards. But behind this mask of cowardice lay a flurry of activity. Secret military bases were built in empty star systems, disguised as asteroid mines and research stations. Our best scientists worked on projects that were decades ahead of galactic technology. I personally oversaw the development of nanite weaponry, microscopic robots capable of turning an enemy ship into a cloud of metallic dust in minutes. Project Medusa created AI fleets that could coordinate the actions of thousands of ships without human involvement. The Nemesis system was a network of autonomous military satellites capable of wiping out all biological life on a planet in a matter of hours. The director had aged over the years, but his resolve had only strengthened. He regularly reminded me that we were not just playing political games. We were preparing for a war for the survival of the human species. Every day of delay, every act of feigned humiliation brought us closer to the moment when we would no longer have to pretend. That moment came in 2422, when the Altan Empire declared war on the Galactic Council. Their leader, Supreme Commander Xerax, announced that it was time to establish a natural order where the strongest ruled the weakest without any democratic frills. The Altan fleet began systematically seizing key Federation systems. The Council called on all member races to provide military assistance, and humanity, as always, responded with a feigned willingness to help. We sent 60 ships to the front line, a pathetic force by galactic standards, but the Council accepted even this as a sign of the touching loyalty of a weak race to its allies. The Altan fleet met our ships in the Regulus IV system. 2,000 Altan dreadnoughts against 60 human survey vessels, a ratio that should have turned the battle into a massacre. The entire Galactic Council watched the battle live, expecting to see the heroic but meaningless death of the human fleet. Admiral Lisa Tan, who commanded our squadron, opened a general communication channel and addressed the Altan command. Her words echoed across the galaxy. In the name of humanity, I offer you one last chance to surrender. In 2 minutes, we will begin a demonstration of what happens when peaceful beings are pushed to the brink. The Altans laughed. Their commander replied that he would gladly watch as cosmic mold tried to threaten the Empire. He ordered his fleet to open fire on the human ships, expecting to see their instant destruction. What happened next forever changed the galaxy's perception of humanity. Our ships did not try to evade the attack. Instead, they activated systems no one knew existed. Powerful electromagnetic pulses instantly disabled the targeting of the Altan weapons, and then clouds of nanobots poured out from our vessels. In 7 minutes, 2,000 Altan dreadnoughts were reduced to metallic dust. They didn't explode or catch fire. They simply dissolved like sugar in water. The crews managed to send a few desperate messages about impossible weapons and violation of the laws of physics before their ships vanished. But the most terrifying part was yet to come. Admiral Tan opened a channel to the Altan capital and calmly explained that the nanobots could be reprogrammed to destroy not metal, but organic compounds. She gave the Altan Empire 48 hours to surrender completely, or every planet in the Empire would be turned into a sterile rock. The Altans capitulated within 16 hours. The Galactic Council was in shock. In one day, humanity went from being an object of ridicule to the most feared military force in the known universe. Emergency meetings were held one after another, with representatives of all races demanding explanations and security guarantees. The director personally arrived at the council station to address a full assembly of representatives from all races. This man, who had hidden in the shadows for 20 years, now stood before the leaders of galactic civilization in a simple black suit, without guards or ceremony. His speech was short and terrifyingly honest. He spoke of 20 years of espionage, how humanity had studied galactic politics and concluded that showing strength was a death sentence. He explained that humans are not an aggressive race. We prefer trade to war, diplomacy to conflict, and exploration to conquest. But, the director added, humanity has one trait the galaxy must understand. When we are cornered, when our survival is threatened, we become the most dangerous beings in the universe. Not because we enjoy killing, but because we are willing to do anything to protect our species. He displayed a holographic map of the galaxy, with red dots marking secret human military bases. There were hundreds of them, in every sector, next to every major civilization, in systems that were considered uninhabited. 20 years of feigned weakness had allowed us to create a military infrastructure capable of destroying any threat in the galaxy within hours. The director ended his speech with words that became historic. We do not want to rule the galaxy. We do not want to conquer or enslave anyone. We simply want to live in peace, pursue science, and explore the universe. But if someone tries to prevent us from doing that, if someone decides that humanity is a threat that needs to be eliminated, then that someone will find that we can indeed be a threat. The most terrifying threat the galaxy has ever faced. The reaction was immediate and predictable. All military plans against humanity were scrapped, and all talk of controlling the primitive race ceased. Human diplomats suddenly became the most sought-after guests at all negotiations. Our traders were granted most favored nation status, and our scientists gained access to any research they desired. But the most important change was in how we were personally viewed. No one looked at humans as weak and cowardly anymore. Now, in the eyes of other races, we read cautious respect mixed with fear. They understood that behind our feigned gentleness lay a will to survive that could wipe anyone who tried to destroy us off the face of the universe. The Altan Empire was disbanded, its territories divided among other races under the supervision of human observers. Supreme Commander Zerax personally came to me with apologies for the misunderstanding and a plea for clemency for his people. I gave him the same answer the director once gave me. We don't want to conquer anyone, but we won't let ourselves be destroyed either. It has been 5 years since the Battle of Regulus IV, as it is now called in history books. The Galactic Federation has become a more peaceful structure. When you know that any serious war could lead to human intervention, the desire to fight seems to disappear. Trade is flourishing, scientific exchanges are growing, and diplomatic conflicts are resolved at the negotiation table, not on the battlefield. I still work at Vigil, but my role has changed. Instead of spying on potential enemies, I coordinate cultural exchanges and scientific cooperation. Sarah Wong heads the Intergalactic Education Program, where young representatives of different races learn to understand each other. The director retired 2 years ago, leaving behind a galaxy where humanity had found its place not as conquerors or victims, but as equals among equals. His last words to me were simple. Remember, Jack, Strength isn't about defeating enemies. Strength is about making enemies unnecessary. Sometimes I think back to that first day when we discovered the alien ship in the asteroid field. Back then, it seemed like the beginning of a new era of exploration and discovery. I couldn't have imagined that it would become the start of the most complex military operation in human history. An operation where the main weapon wasn't power, but the ability to appear weak. Now, when I look at the stars, I know that hundreds of sentient races live out there who no longer fear humanity, but also do not underestimate us. We have found our place in the galactic community, not as predators or victims, but as guardians of balance. As a race that is ready to protect peace with force, but prefers to create it with wisdom. And you know what? I think that's exactly where we belong. You know, when I first saw that ship on the radar screen, I thought it was an asteroid. Just regular space junk, the kind you see thousands of. But 5 minutes later, that asteroid changed course at a 90-degree angle, and my life was turned upside down forever. Because in that moment, I realized we were no longer alone in the universe, and what happened next would change the fate of all humanity. My name is Jack Ward, and 25 years ago, I commanded the scout ship Dauntless on the far border of the solar system. It was a routine mission, patrolling the outer asteroid fields, searching for minerals, standard cosmic boredom. Until that day in March 2387, when Lieutenant Sarah Wong screamed from the comms room so loudly that everyone on the bridge jumped. She said she had intercepted a signal. Not cosmic noise, not pulsar interference, but a real, structured signal with modulation and patterns. When I went to her console, the screen showed waves that pulsed with mathematical precision. With trembling hands, Sarah pointed at the display and whispered that it wasn't random. Someone out there was talking. For the next 48 hours, we pursued the signal source through the asteroid field. The ship hid behind large rocks, constantly changing position, but our scanners captured its shape. It was a structure nearly a kilometer long, with smooth, organic curves, completely unlike our angular Earth vessels. Lights flickered on its hull in spectra that don't exist in nature. Sarah worked without sleep, deciphering the intercepted transmissions. She discovered that the signals contained star system coordinates, technical specifications, and what appeared to be diplomatic codes. When she showed me a translated fragment, a shiver ran down my spine. It spoke of a new primary species and threat assessment to the galactic order. I immediately contacted Earth Central Command via Quantum Link. Admiral Craig listened to my report with a stone face, then said our mission was classified top secret and that I needed to hand over all data to the director of a new organization with the code name Vigil. 6 hours later, a small shuttle arrived at the Dauntless with a man in a black suit who introduced himself only as the director. This man looked about 50, with sharp gray eyes and a way of speaking that made you listen to every word. He studied our data, listened to the signal recordings, and asked dozens of questions about the alien ship's behavior. When I asked what we would do next, he looked at me and said that humanity was on the verge of the most important decision in its history. The director explained that we had two paths. The first was open contact, presenting ourselves to the galactic community as a new sentient species ready for diplomacy. The second was covert observation, studying this civilization from afar to understand who we were dealing with before revealing ourselves. He said he was choosing the second option because history shows that when a developed civilization meets a less developed one, the result is rarely good for the weaker party. And so, Operation Eclipse began. For the next 20 years, I led a secret network of spy stations across the galaxy. We established disguised observation posts in asteroid fields and on dead planets, set up signal interceptors in interstellar space, and hacked the communication systems of various alien races. What we discovered exceeded all expectations. The galaxy teemed with sentient life, hundreds of species united in something called the Galactic Federation. It was a complex political structure with a council, trade agreements, military alliances, and diplomatic protocols that had evolved over thousands of years. But the more we studied this federation, the clearer it became that it was far from a utopia of intergalactic brotherhood. Power was concentrated in the hands of three dominant races: the Altans, the Xanax, and the Hoda'al. The Altans were a warlike race with advanced military technology. The Xanax controlled trade routes and the economy, and the Hoda'al were renowned for their scientific achievements and diplomatic influence. The smaller races existed as vassals or allies, but their position was unstable. We intercepted numerous messages about preventive wars against species that were developing too quickly or posed a potential threat to the existing order. The principle was simple: crush the threat before it became a real problem. Sarah Wong, who by then had become my deputy for intelligence, conducted a deep analysis of galactic politics. She found that the Federation was a fragile structure held together by fear and mutual benefit. The Altans constantly threatened military solutions to conflicts. The Xanax manipulated economic levers, and the Hoda'al played the role of wise arbitrators while secretly pursuing their own agenda. The director studied our data and made a decision that seemed insane. He said that when humanity finally revealed itself to the galactic community, we must pretend to be weak. We shouldn't show our true technological capabilities or demonstrate our military might. Instead, we had to present ourselves as a primitive race that had only just learned to fly between the stars.